It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join News Director Paul David and News Editor Philip Catafamo as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics in Yavapai County that affect all our lives. And now here's today's Countywide.
Welcome to Countywide. I'm Paul David. As always, it is great to have you in studio with us today. We're sitting down with Verde Valley astronomer J.D. Maddy's back in studio.
Yes, glad to be here.
Welcome back. Now,
yes.
if you're listening to the show today, you want to make sure you find the show so you can watch the show, because J.D.'s always got a great bunch of photos that he brings with us. As we tick through the show, we'll be bringing those photos to you. AstroVerde.org is a website for you to go to, AstroVerde.org. So how you faring, J.D.?
Oh, quite well, except for a few things we'll talk about later.
Okay, all right, all right. First thing you've got on your list of things, J.D. always brings a nice script in here for us of things to talk about, and we talked about this a few years ago with you. Remember you came in and did a light presentation and everything on us, but the dark sky ordinances, they've been popping up all over the place.
Yes, they have. In fact, Cottonwood just recently became the 23rd international dark sky community in the world.
Okay.
So as a total, there's only 25 international dark sky communities in the world right now, which puts our state, Arizona, as having 6 communities that are dark sky compliant, which means we have 25% of the world's dark sky communities right here in Arizona.
I gotta imagine it's going to catch on, right? It's not that difficult.
Well, it's a mindset. For most people get a little scared when you talk about dark skies for some reason that have lived in a bright city all their lives. They don't understand why we want the dark skies, and it's not that we're going to turn off all the lights. It's just that we're going to manage our lighting and make sure it's used efficiently and effectively and in the best cost savings manners.
Put down where we need it to be able to use it. It doesn't have to be way up there. It just needs to be about 6'6" for me all the way around, and I can see just fine. Okay.
I'm sure you've heard the deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
Occasionally.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we try to avoid with dark skies, is the deer in the headlights, because you look at a bright light, everything else disappears. That's all you see is the bright light. When we put the lights down properly in their proper position where we're walking so we can see snakes or bugs or scorpions or whatever, and we can see the ground, that's most efficient for our eyes.
So how do we promote this? Do you guys promote this?
We do, yes. Yeah. At all our star parties, we talk about the dark skies and why it's important. It's not only important to have the beauty of the dark sky, but it's also important for humans to function properly as well.
It is amazing. Yes. I was telling J.D. before the show, just spending time at home now, and that's one of the reasons I brought J.D. in, because so many of us are stuck at home, but in the evenings I find myself on the front porch and the back porch, and I look up, and the later it gets, the brighter the sky gets, just with the stars, not with lighting.
Correct.
You know, it's the stars, and it's an amazing sky. We're really lucky to live up here where we can enjoy that, because when you do drive to Phoenix in the evening hours, nighttime hours, you can see that glow over the city. There's almost like a dome of light over it, and you can see it from a long ways away. So being up here, oh man, and it's a good time of year to be looking up in the sky.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Yes, it is. In fact, one other mention about the dark skies, we also have 10 parks, state parks and national monuments in Arizona that have acquired dark sky status as a dark sky park. And there again, there's only 80 total in the whole world, so we have roughly 12 to 13% of the dark sky parks. So Arizona has always had dark skies, and now that we've instituted some ordinances, I think we will hopefully keep it that way.
Is it because we've got Lowell Observatory? Is that the main reason Arizona's so on board with this, or at least seems to be at the beginning here?
The dark sky revolution, if you want to call it that, kind of started in Flagstaff. Flagstaff was the first international dark sky community certified.
Okay.
So that was nearly 20 years ago, or about 20 years ago. So since then, they've looked at models all over the world, cities and such, and anywhere there's a large observatory, they're trying to get the nearby communities to adapt to dark sky rules.
Okay, makes sense. We're still looking out there for answers, aren't we?
Yes.
Discovering.
Certainly. Oh, certainly.
All the time.
Certainly.
It's really exciting.
And even though there's a lot of space telescopes up there, which are nice to have, you don't have to worry about dark skies up in space because everything's dark. We still need our ground-based telescopes. They're easily accessible, easily repairable, easily replaceable, and such. So.
And who doesn't like to look at the stars?
Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Beautiful, yeah.
In fact, we can...
Do we want to get into that?
We can start right off.
Okay.
We'll talk about a little light pollution called our sun. Hopefully we'll pop up the solar picture here. Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about the sun. We're amateur astronomers as well as professionals are patiently or maybe even impatiently waiting for solar cycle 25 to begin. Over the past 2 or 3 years, we've been in a solar minimum, so the sun goes through a solar cycle of 11 to 13 years, and right now we've been in a minimum, so we've been looking for indications of the solar cycle to start ramping up with more sunspots, more solar flares, and things like that. I think in the last 90 days, I've observed 1 coronal mass ejection, which is a big explosion off the surface of the sun, a few flares, and maybe 1 sunspot. Okay. So it's been pretty bleak on the sun, and you look at the sun through specialized solar telescopes, and it's just a nice big clean ball. But we like looking at the sun when there's a lot of activity, a lot of sunspots. So that solar flare that occurred a few weeks ago, as well as the sunspot associated with it, we were kind of crossing our fingers, hoping some more activity would occur, but it's been very, very slow to progress. So we're not quite out of this minimum yet.
Sounds like our monsoon. Not quite here yet. It's just kind of poking along, and it's not really doing what it's supposed to do.
Exactly.
All right, so the sun has been a little bit dull.
Yes,
it's still doing its job, but it's not exploding and putting sunspots all over. Oh, wow. Okay. Now, is there any kind of a safety thing we should know about before we start?
Well, anytime you look at the sun, be sure to use a proper solar filter. You can purchase binoculars now. They're specific for looking at the sun safely, but you never want to look at the sun without some type of solar protection, eclipse glasses or properly filtered telescope.
Okay, and the reason I ask you this is I was telling JD before the show, I'm going to get a telescope. I want one for my yard so I can sit out there and look at the stars. So I need to know some of these things too.
And you could buy a solar filter for it and actually look at the sun.
All right, very good. All right, what's next on the agenda here?
Next, probably the big thing in the summertime is the Milky Way.
Yeah.
Hopefully our Milky Way picture will show up.
Oh, it's there.
The Milky Way is just absolutely wonderful under the Arizona skies. This particular picture, you can also see a couple of objects on the left side of the picture that are very, very bright. And they're out of place. Well, that is Jupiter and the planet Saturn. So not only can we see the beauty of the Milky Way this time of the year, but also Jupiter and Saturn are right there in view as well.
Now, how long will the Milky Way be around so that we can enjoy it and look at it? Because it's not here all year round.
Well,
visible to us, is it?
Yes, it is.
Is it? Okay.
Yes.
Explain.
What happens as the Earth rotates around the sun, right now we're looking towards the center of the Milky Way. So if you know your constellations, you'll see Scorpius, the scorpion. He's pretty much looks like a scorpion, has the head and the big long tail. And then just to the left of that would be the Sagittarius, the archer, which looks like a teapot. And the teapot, if you look real closely where the spout of the teapot is, it pours out onto the tail of the scorpion, but just above the spout is the center of our Milky Way. So in the summertime, we're gazing to the center of our Milky Way. As we rotate around the sun, we will look out, say in 6 months, and we'll see the constellation of Orion. That is on the outer edges of the Milky Way. Okay. So as we go around the sun, the Milky Way changes, goes from the summertime Milky Way, which we're looking at the center of the Milky Way, to the winter Milky Way, which we're looking out to the edges of the Milky Way.
Okay, let's take our first break. Verde Valley astronomer J.D. Maddy in studio today. Website for you, astroverde.org. Stick around, countywide. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Do you need more closet space? Hi, I'm Tracy Shadley, owner of Organize A to Z. We provide professional custom design solutions to keep you and your space organized, which helps reduce your stress, increase your productivity, and allows you to take control of your belongings. We are proud to be locally owned and operated, specializing in custom closets, garages, offices, and pantries. Call me today for your free consultation. Organize your space, organize your life.
Two things we can count on every year.
A new set of tax rules and great weather here in northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
With too many senior homeowners falling short in their retirement dreams, there may be great news for you. A reverse mortgage may be the answer. The flexibility it provides may help you with your retirement dreams, peace of mind, and quality of life in your retirement. For your in-home, no-obligation consultation, contact me at 928-225-7418. That's 928-225-7418. Or you can find me at Facebook at Jim Hostler, Reverse Mortgage Specialist.
Hi, this is Lori and Melissa from Sedona Soul Spaces. We are the premier source for all your interior design, decorating, and staging needs.
Every day people ask, why didn't I call you sooner?
Let us use our passion, creativity, and experience to make your life easier.
Don't make costly mistakes. Call us and we will help save you time and money.
We offer full-service interior design, custom furnishings,
Complete home staging, turnkey vacation home packages.
Sedona Soul Spaces, creating extraordinary spaces that delight your soul.
Welcome back to Countywide. We're sitting down with J.D. Maddy, local astronomer, astroverde.org, astroverde.org. If you're interested in telescopes, stargazing, you guys, have you been able to do your events like you normally do this year? I know some are canceled, but I think you're probably hoping still you could do some.
No. We've pretty much had to cancel everything because of the coronavirus. Because when you're at the telescope, it's a very social thing, and you're very, very close. And of course, you have people looking in your telescope, touching your telescope, very close contact. So
next year,
maybe next year. We've got, I think, one star party in November that still might happen. It's at a state park, but they're not. They're leaving it on the books just in case something happens. But it doesn't look like it's going to be able to go as well.
Yeah,
so.
It's tough to plan anything right now.
Yes, it is.
It is very tough to plan. Okay, we're talking about the Milky Way.
Yes.
And you were telling me during the break that if I look south from my house, just as the sun's starting to go down, that's when I can start. I can start to pick out Scorpius.
Correct.
And I can see Scorpius in that. So I want to look south.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Got that. So what else do we want from the Milky Way? Because it's a busy place up there.
Right, it is. And you don't have to have a telescope to look at the objects in the Milky Way. Some are visual that you can just look up in the sky and see. Particularly, maybe our next picture will be some open clusters. This is an open cluster in the between Scorpius and Sagittarius regions, and you can actually look up in the sky and see a little hazy spot. They're called Messier objects, number 6 and 7, I believe, and you can actually see them with the naked eye. If you have binoculars, they're just absolutely wonderful binocular objects, and then if you want to get a really, really close-up view of them, you can use a telescope. So there's a lot of things you can see in the Milky Way that don't require any magnification, but the magnification will bring them in much closer to you.
I like that about you. You bring that up, that I don't have to necessarily have a telescope in order to look at some of these things. I can enjoy them with just a pair of binoculars in my backyard, front yard, whatever.
And if you, once you're outside for 10 or 15 minutes and your eyes become really well dark adapted, then you'll see these little hazy spots, and then they're easier to point your binoculars to if you have binoculars.
Do you have a favorite time to go out when you want to go stargazing? What is the best time for you? What time do you enjoy?
Midnight, actually.
Midnight.
Yeah, because the air's cooled down. Even in the summertime, the air's usually cooled down. The cool air is moving in. Things are starting to steady, and it's usually very, very dark at midnight.
Let me ask you this too: on the windy days that we have here in Arizona, we have so many of them. dust particles in the air. Does that affect your viewing
Oh, it certainly
at all?
will. Yes, it certainly will.
Later at night, does when the wind kind of dies down, it always does around sunset.
Right.
The particles start to fall down, I imagine, too.
Correct. But there's still a lot of very small particles that can be in the air. There's a couple of terms called seeing and transparency. So both can affect your ability to see visually as well as through telescopes.
Okay.
So sometimes you'll go out and look up at the sky and it just looks kind of murky. It could be moisture, it could be dust, could be smoke. Now when you look at the planets like Saturn and Jupiter, sometimes a little bit of dust and a little bit of smoke in the sky actually will help you because they are so bright. They dim down just slightly and are actually easier to see.
I remember you told me once during one of the shows we've done with you that looking at the full moon is not nearly as much fun as looking at the moon when it's not quite so full because
Correct.
It is so bright when it's full.
Yes, it is very, very bright. Plus, there's no shadow details. And the fascinating thing to me is to watch the shadow move across the face of the moon, and each night it changes position slightly. And if you watch it over a night period of time, say all night, you can see actually the shadow move from crater to crater. But this gives you the terminators, what's that's called, the shadow line across it. You can actually see definition and gives you that 3D effect when you look through a telescope or binoculars.
Amazing. What else we got? What's next, JD?
Well, let's see. We just showed you a couple of pictures, I think, of open clusters. There's another one of my favorite things to look at is globular clusters. When we look at an open cluster, they're typically fairly close, anywhere from 400 to 5,000 light years away, and that's close on a galactic scale. But open clusters, anywhere from a few dozen to a few thousand stars. Globular clusters are typically farther away, but as you can see on the screen, they're a very dense concentration of stars. Typically, most of the ones we observe are roughly 200,000 up to 1 million stars, and they're just wonderful to look at telescopically. There are a couple of clusters you can see with the naked eye at certain times of the year, but they're very, very difficult. Binoculars, they show up as just kind of a fuzzy, out-of-focus star, but once you throw a telescope on them, you can actually see the what I call a city of stars, just a glob of stars hanging out.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And they're typically much farther away, typically 15,000 up to 100,000 light years away.
Now, are these visible year-round as well?
Yes.
Or better now?
Some of the clusters, the most viewed clusters are visible right now, but the wintertime has its number of clusters as well that you can see.
Okay.
Not only open clusters, but globular clusters.
Okay.
Now, as far as open clusters, there's roughly 3,000 that you can take a look at telescopically. Globular clusters, there's under 200. So the open clusters way outnumber the globular clusters. Another couple of trivia things about clusters. Open clusters are typically young, fairly young, maybe a few 100,000 to a few million, maybe 100 million years old, whereas your globular clusters will be nearly as old as the galaxy itself, billions of years old.
You use these numbers and you call them small.
Oh.
I hear, but I think they're just huge. They're just massive. Okay, we have to take another break.
Okay.
We'll come back. We'll have a few minutes left of the program. We'll run through the rest of the stuff you have here. JD Maddy's in studio, local Verde Valley astronomer. AstroVerde.org is the website to go visit. Stick around, Countywide, back in just a couple minutes.
Orkin has pest control down to a science.
When your business chooses Orkin's Precision Protection Program, you get a tailored pest control program for your specific industry and environment.
Your business can benefit from over a century of experience, training, and scientific knowledge that define the Orkin man.
Maximum protection, minimum exposure, backed by one of the industry's most comprehensive guarantees.
Choose your locally owned and operated Northern Arizona Orkin and get more than an exterminator. Get an expert.
Award-winning Soundbites Grill is an entertainment restaurant located in Uptown Sedona at the Hyatt Pinion Point Resort. Open for lunch and dinner, featuring fresh fish, all-natural hand-cut beef, even a full vegan menu. Family friendly, open 11:30 to 9. Late dining on Friday and Saturday. Soundbites Grill has some of the best views of the Sedona Red Rocks. Offers world-class entertainment, food, fun, and music.
Are you struggling to overcome an addiction, depression, insomnia, or a weight problem? Then it's time for you to meet with Dr. Elaine Kissel, award-winning, world-renowned hypnotherapist, author, and mind trainer. Now you can get her help from the privacy and comfort of your own home. Let Elaine Kissel create a personalized hypnotherapy plan to overcome your problem forever. Call 844-4KISSEL now for a discounted evaluation appointment. That's 844-4KISSEL.
So, I just moved in with this family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that! That's disgusting! Oh, poop already! You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
Welcome back to Countywide. We've got just a few minutes left of the program. Again, go to astroverde.org. JD says a lot of the Facebook page link is there as well. A lot of updated information comes up almost daily on that, so you want to make sure you check out that as well. All right, we've got a few more pictures to go through, and then we want to talk about a comet as well.
Yes, exactly. So we'll kind of rush through those if we can.
Okay, what's our next photo?
This, when you look at a nebula through a telescope or through binoculars, it's just kind of a gray glob. So you don't see a lot of color. Typically they're several thousand light years away. And then you take a look at a picture of one, and then you can see how it jumps out at you.
Oh.
So the human eye is just not sensitive enough to really pull in the colors from those distances.
It went from gray to being like hot pink all the way around.
Yes, exactly.
Amazing.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that's the true color. That would be the true color of it. So if we could jump in a spaceship and zip over there really quickly and get fairly close to it, that's what it would actually appear as.
Don't you wish?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. Certainly,
I do too,
certainly.
yeah.
And then another picture of a nebula. This is also called the Pillars of Creation. You may have seen the Hubble Space Telescope picture. It doesn't look like that because the Hubble Space Telescope uses a different color palette when they process their pictures. It makes them really, really pretty, but this is actually what you would see. This particular nebula is, I kind of call it the Mad Cat Nebula. It's called Messier number 20, or the Trifid Nebula.
What's up?
But it's a combination of a cluster with nebulosity around it as
Pinkish
well.
purple with blue all the way around it, light blue, dark blue. It's amazing how much is going on out there.
Oh, yes. There again, the telescope will pull it in, you'll be able to see it, but it won't be those vivid colors like that. So,
not until you take a picture of it.
Correct. Yeah.
And I could use my cell phone if I'm going to get a telescope. Can I use my cell phone to take a picture through there?
Some cases, if it's a really bright object, the cell phone will pick it up. Typically, the cell phone works really well for moon pictures through a telescope, but it's not quite sensitive enough, not really designed to pick up the nebulosity and such.
You're better off having a camera to do that.
Yes, exactly.
All right, okay.
Exactly.
All right.
So, I wanted to talk one more thing about, and that's a comet that's in the nighttime sky now.
Tell us about this comet.
Over the last few weeks, we've been able to get up at 3 in the morning and patiently wait for this comet to rise before the sun. It's called Comet Neowise 2020 F3. Neowise is actually a NASA infrared space telescope that discovered this. It was discovered just in March, the first 2 weeks of March. It was the third comet. The F3 indicates it was the third comet in the first 2-week period of March to be discovered. So now it's transitioned into the evening sky. So if you go out this evening about an hour after sunset, and if you have some really good eyes or some binoculars, start scanning the northwest horizon area, and it'll be very, very visible. If it's last night there were a few clouds there that kind of interrupted our views of it, but if it's clear on the northwest horizon tonight, you should be able to pick it up visually as well as through binoculars.
Now, how long will something like that be around? We've got about 45 seconds left. How long will it be around?
This one will be visual to the naked eye probably for the next couple of weeks, and it's kind of made the turn and is heading away from us now. It was at its closest approach earlier this week, I believe, and now it's kind of heading away from us. So it'll get dimmer and dimmer and dimmer visually, but we'll be able to see it telescopically and take pictures of it probably for the next month to 60 days.
Okay. Wow. Great stuff, JD, as always. All right, that's it. Verde Valley astronomer JD Maddy in studio with us today. Again, the website is astroverde.org. Be sure to check out their Facebook page as well. As JD said, there's a lot of information added on there, daily photos, really nice photos. And be sure to check out the show later as well so you can see some of the photos we showed on the show. Thank you for watching and listening. This is Countywide. We'll talk to you again next time.